Escape from Tarkov's 12.12 wipe and update happened today on the 12th of December. All those doubters, I told you so. But anyway, there's a lot of issues with the game at the moment. People can't get in, people can't download the update, a load of things as to be expected. Just be patient. There's a hell of a lot of influx of players at the moment, so servers are being overloaded. Nevertheless, there is a lot of stuff to unpack in 12.12. The patch notes came along with the update, so we're able to break down what they've added and what they've changed. So I'm not going to waffle on, we're just going to go through all of the patch notes and sort of give you an idea of what to expect when you open up 12.12. So starting off with the main thing, the Lighthouse Location has been added. And this is actually a map that was in Contract Wars, just made into Escape from Tarkov. Really, really cool. Now this is just the first iteration at the moment. They're going to expand the Lighthouse map in the future, and they're also going to add new bosses on the map, and there's going to be more than one of them. And yeah, it's going to be really interesting. They've also got on the Lighthouse map a new AI type, and these are ex-USEC operatives called Rogues, and they are basically a gang of PMCs who fought in the Contract Wars. They're sort of going to be like raiders, and because these new AI are USEC PMCs, they will not fire on sight of a USEC player. They will actually only get hostile if you either engage them, in which case you'll become a traitor and treated as hostile for the next several raids, even if you die. But there's also different areas that they occupy in terms of their territory. If you get too close to their territory, then they won't shoot you on sight either. They'll order you to leave first, and if you're not compliant, then they will shoot you. If you are a group of USECs, then the same applies to all of you, but if you're a group of USECs and you have one bear on your team, then that whole group will be considered hostile. Really interesting new feature, and I'd like to see how they develop this sort of style in the future as well. Of course, another major thing is inertia has been added to the game to make movement and actions more realistic, and this is affecting walking and strafing, sprinting, sharp turns during sprinting, landing after jumping or falling from a height, and leaning and sidestepping. So if you do AD spam a lot, or if you used to, then you won't be able to do that as much anymore. It takes some time to move left and right. You can't strafe, you can't do your wiggle run to get away from bullets. It's a lot more of a realistic movement. Inertia is also affected by the weight of your equipment and your strength skill, and the more your equipment weighs and the lower your strength skill is, it will take you longer to accelerate at the start of movement, either walking, strafing or sprinting. It'll take you longer to slow down, and it takes longer to lean and a few other things as well. So honestly, you're going to want to level your strength up this wipe, and you're going to want to keep your character light if you like to move around. Obviously, if you like to go heavy with meta gear, then expect to be the walking tank that you're supposed to. Don't expect that you can jump out the third floor roof of the Shoreline Resort and expect that you can just run it off. It's not going to work like that anymore, and this is something that I've been waiting for absolutely ages. Really excited to see how this one plays out. They've also expanded the crouching and getting up from the floor mechanics, so the duration of these actions now depend on how much you weigh, and it also changes how much stamina drains when you're doing so, and they're just adding, again, along with inertia, more in terms of character movement and character mechanics. And they've also expanded the weapon malfunction system. This is a second iteration of that now. Previously, there was just misfires. Now there are new types of malfunctions: failure to eject, failure to feed, and jammed bolt. All of these malfunctions will require you to do different things in order to clear this malfunction, but if you have a new weapon or a weapon above 93% durability, you won't experience any of these apart from weapon overheating, and that won't happen very often at all. Some types of weapons also won't have certain malfunctions due to their design and mechanism of operation, so some weapons might malfunction more, malfunction less, have different malfunctions to others. It's just dependent on the weapon. If you guys don't have elite level of troubleshooting skill, then you'll also need to determine what type of malfunction it is first by inspecting the malfunctioning weapon via the weapon inspection hotkey. But if you do get yourself elite troubleshooting skill, then you will automatically detect what malfunction it is, and then you'll know how to clear that malfunction really simply. Long story short, just basically keep on top of repairing your weapons and going in with a new weapon. Scav weapons now, they've got such low durability, you aren't really going to want to take them into raid even if you don't have much left, because you're just going to want to sell them and make sure you've got a new weapon to go in with to avoid all these malfunctions happening. The weapon will also have a color indicator on it, so you can see when your weapon malfunctions. Rather than it just jamming, you'll see a small flashing light in the bottom right of your screen, and a sound notification will play as well, so you do know whether your weapon is malfunctioning or not. But these notifications and sounds can be disabled in the game if you don't want that under the malfunction notifications box. And as I mentioned just now, the weapons can overheat. Now, a weapon will heat up after each shot, and the heating rate depends on the cartridge, the barrel, and other heated related elements like receivers, muzzle devices, handguards, etc. And the overheating is split into 3 sections. You've got slight overheating, where you won't see any reddening of the barrel, and you'll just see sort of a heat haze coming off of the barrel, and this will happen during firing, like if you're doing a few bursts, one after the other. And then you've got medium overheating, where the barrel is reddened and you will physically see that the barrel is reddened. And then lastly, you've got severe overheating, where the weapon is extremely hot and the weapon's rate of fire will change, and there's possible cooking off chances as well. And then if you go further past that without giving your weapon a chance to cool down, then you'll reach maximum overheating, where the bolt gets jammed. So bear that in mind. You're going to need to modify your weapon as well to keep the weapon cool. You're not going to want to full auto spray everything you see either. You're going to want to pick your shots and just treat your weapon with a little bit more care as well. Now, we saw a bunch of graphs before the wipe happened of what they're changing to ballistics in this game, and that is with 12.12 as well. If you haven't seen these graphs before, basically what they're doing is they're countering in the bullet coefficient and bullet weight, bullet diameter, all those things to improve the bullet's trajectory. Now, a lot of the time this will basically make for straighter curves, bullet traveling a further distance before dropping off, and, you know, kind of realistic. It's going to make shooting at longer distances, especially with a bolt action sniper or something with higher calibers, a lot more easier to deal with. And therefore we can expect to see some longer range kills on this channel as well, because boys, I love sniping. They've also changed how recoil works when shooting as well. They've changed how much you compensate for the recoil when full auto spraying or firing long bursts, and they've also decreased how much recoil reduction bonuses you get from skills like weapon mastery and other things like that, which is something that I've pointed out a couple of years ago that was extremely broken about this game. And VoIP is also in this game. I'm going to go into it further in a separate video, but basically they can allow you to talk to other players in the game now. So you can arrange a ceasefire, you can team up with randoms, and a bunch of other things, which makes the community more involved. Now, if you're worried about people just spamming it and chatting shit, then they've got a few things to combat this. Like, for example, VoIP works only in raid and only in push to talk mode, so you can't have it on consistently, and you can't talk for more than 15 seconds at a time either. Pressing the push to talk option too often will trigger an auto block as well, and you can also report inappropriate voice usage just by using the gesture menu by double tapping Y by default and using the report button. And if this happens while the player is talking, or if the player talked for about 2 seconds beforehand, then you can report that, but you can't report members of your own group. The audibility of the voice depends on how far they are, so it's proximity voice, and it also depends on how thick the walls are in rooms, whether you're indoors, outdoors, upstairs, downstairs, etc. And Scavs can also hear players talking, so if you're trying to be sneaky, whisper or don't talk at all. And VoIP can quickly be disabled from the gesture menu or via an in-game hotkey as well, which is really nice. Operational tasks have also been expanded. They've added completed operational task statistics as well, so you can see how many of them you've completed, how many of them you've failed, and they've also got a large variety of all operational tasks now available as well. For example, extracting for a specific extract while on an exit location type task is a subcategory as well now, so a lot more in depth and a lot more different requirements that you're going to need as well if you're going to do these operational tasks. And they've also made it so you can drink part or eat part of a certain food and drink item. That wasn't always the case. Some food and drink items you can eat a certain amount and drink a certain amount, but not always. But now this is the case, and that is quite good. But obviously the duration of the effects that you gain from drinking and eating will change, so bear that in mind. And it will only ever stack up to the original buff's value, so you can't just drink apart, and get more of a buff than you would have got from just drinking the whole thing. They've got a bunch of new items coming to the game, for example, new weapons and new weapon parts. We've seen the Scar, we've seen the revolving shotgun, we've seen a couple of other things as well. We've also got 4 new different types of hand grenades, including impact grenades. That will be fun and pretty scary. You've got new equipment, new barter items, new keys. I suppose that's going to be for the Lighthouse Location. You've got new storage cases for injectors and a storage case for keycards only as well. And you've got rangefinders. You've got 2 different types. One that we saw in the Lighthouse trailer, which is a handheld one. And you've got a tactical rangefinder module that you can stick on your weapon as well. 5 different types of cartridges for ammunition. And you've got new clothing sets for both USEC and Bear. You've got that black puffer jacket for USEC, which is what I'm going to be grinding for. And you've got new unique armbands and a new face type for both factions at the start of the game as well. And I have to say, the USEC one is the first non-weird one that I've seen. And we don't know what quests they are yet, but they have got new quests for the Lighthouse Location as well, which is exciting. They've done a few optimizations for graphics as well. For example, SSR or screen space reflections have been optimized a hell of a lot. Previously, they used to tank performance and they didn't look as good, but basically what it is the reflection effect from wet or glossy surfaces or the water surface itself has been completely redone, and that's thanks to Unity 2019. Reflections now look a lot more realistic, and it reduces the load on the system amazingly well. Optimizations for vegetation rendering at a long distance will be improved as well. It takes a lot less of your CPU load in locations with large numbers of trees and other vegetation as well, and fingers crossed that helps when it comes to sharpness in the game as well, where they used to just paste the same texture over and over again on anything related to vegetation like trees or grass. And also when it rains now, you're not going to see it look like a 1940s film. It's not going to be black and white. It's just a lot more saturated now, and it may look a little bit grey because obviously the clouds, but it's not going to be so much that it just looks black and white and grey for you, which is nice changes as well. And they've also fixed a hell of a lot related to servers and bugs in the game. I'm just going to list them on screen because there's too many to mention really. But then after all of that, they have also made it so specific items can no longer be put up and purchased on the flea market. And this involves high tier armors, ammunition, and weapon stuff, and it's going to be quite interesting. For example, you can't put a Wrist T helmet on there anymore, an Exfil, a Vulcan 5, an Altin, a 4 armor, an LBT Slick. You can't put a Hex Grid on there, you can't put a Reader on there, you can't put a Mini 4 on there, you can't put a Gem 4 Full on there, a Defender, a Karund, a Gem 4 High Mobility and a Gem 4 Assault, a Gazelle. You can't put TV10s, you can't put the majority of the high tier armors on the flea market anymore. And you've also got certain ammo types like 45 AP, M61, M993, M62, BS, BT, APSX, Subsonic SX, SSA AP, M995, M855A1, the list goes on and on. 76239 BP can't be put on there anymore. Sorry, all of you mutant users, you're not going to be picking up them straight out the gate. And this is actually quite interesting. Thermals can also not be put on there, and night visions as well. So yeah, it's going to improve the early game a little bit because people aren't just going to be able to buy everything that they want as soon as they get to the flea market, which is what happens usually when the wipe happens. So I'm quite excited. I've been saying that they should do this for quite some time. I'm glad they've implemented it. And yeah, we'll see what happens. But guys, what do you think of the patch? Have you played any yet? Have you managed to get in the game? And yeah, let me know what you think down below in the comments to start a discussion. If you haven't subscribed already, I recommend doing so because there's going to be a ton of Escape from Tarkov content on this channel. And I can't wait to show you what I see in 12.12. But thank you so much for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.